We start our series with 5 reasons why Thomas Aquinas' 5 proofs for the existence of God are so commonly misinterpreted. Reason number 1. The only source we have for Thomas's proofs is Book 1, Question 2, Article 3 of the Summa Theologia. It is here that Thomas addresses the question whether God exists. The problem is that whilst this answer does contain a formulation of all 5 of the proofs of the existence of God, they are clearly only sketches. In other words, there is no attempt to pad out the arguments. It seems clear that Thomas does not intend to engage in a philosophical analysis of these arguments here. He may assume that the reader is already familiar with them. The strongest reason is probably that his intention is to engage in theology in the Summa, and these arguments are philosophical. It is also his own contention that no science can prove its own subject. Given that theology is the science of God, the Summa just isn't the place. It makes sense then to look toward Thomas's other writings to get a sense of why he thinks these arguments have force. Reason number 2. Those who study Thomas know that his approach is Aristotelian. He admires Aristotle so much, in fact, that he simply refers to him as the philosopher. Unfortunately, in philosophy, the modern analytical trend, for all its merits, is open to the accusation of encouraging slackness when it comes to framing arguments in the context in which they were written. The truth is that a failure to understand the Aristotelian context when assessing Thomas's proofs has led to a plethora of inadequate commentaries. For example, in the argument from motion, the term motion itself can be misleading, for Thomas is not intending to simply speak of things moving from one location to another. Motion in the Aristotelian sense includes change of any sort. For example, the motion between young and old, or the motion between water going from liquid to solid ice, or even the motion between a caterpillar's transformation to become a butterfly. The key Aristotelian concept here is the movement from potentiality to actuality. Water, whilst actually being liquid, always retains the potentiality to become a solid or a gas. Without properly understanding the metaphysics of Aristotle, one is simply not going to grasp the metaphysics of Thomas. Reason number 3. There is a tendency to assume that Thomas's approach to these proofs is purely empirical. This is understandable given the nature of modern science as a discipline based upon empirical investigation and experimentation. However, this empirical method can also be mistakenly read into the arguments, particularly when they make reference to causal chains or infinite regress. The assumption is that Thomas wants to point to the world and say, if you look closely enough you will find God at the end of the chain of the events. What has come to be known as a God of the gaps argument. Hopefully we will come to see this is not what Thomas is attempting to do. Reason number 4. Oversimplification. Thomas's 5 ways are often represented in condensed form. If we add that to the fact that he has already significantly condensed them, this can easily lead to misrepresentation and misunderstanding. Presenting these arguments in an easy-to-read, logical formulation requires careful consideration and commitment to accuracy. This is not always given. Oversimplification also refers to attempts of some commentators to present these arguments as simplistic, outdated, and easily dismissed. Whether you find these arguments convincing or not, they certainly are not simplistic and deserve careful consideration. Some of the concepts that they appeal to are seminal in philosophy. Reason number 5 is bias. Yes, you better believe I went there. Let's be honest, the existence of God is a touchy subject that stirs the emotions, and where we find emotion, we often find a bias that overwhelms reason on both sides of the debate. The reality is that there have been too many people who are happy to lazily misrepresent these arguments because it suits their own purposes. So whether we approach this topic with an atheist or theist mindset can set us off on the wrong path before we have even begun. Over the next few weeks, we are going to go through each of the 5 ways step by step to uncover their true value. So don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell to be kept up to date with this series as it unfolds. This has been in 10 minutes. See you on the next video where we will discuss Thomas's argument from motion.